Welcome to Performance Intelligence, the show that brings potential to everyday life. We're here. This is the final episode for 2025. I just did a warm-up so our audience knows, and I scared the living daylights out of Shannon Frost. Frosty, welcome to the studio, the last session for 2025. And The Wizard, he has a name, everybody. Thomas Parkinson. Does anyone ever call you Thomas?
I do.
My mum, my dad.
When you're in trouble. So we're going to today do three different components. Number one, look in the rear view mirror. We're going to look at our lessons, our learning, some of the surprises we had from the past 12 months. Number two, the countdown. Can we do a drum roll? I've only got one hand at time of recording. We're going to do the traditional podcast countdown. What are our top 5 most listened to episodes in 2025? That's with the ears. Shannon, you told me this earlier this year. It's with the eyes now as well. I think in America, more podcasts are consumed on YouTube than they are in traditional methods. We're also going to do our top 5 countdown on YouTube and a couple of special mentions. And then number 3 today, we're going to look forward. What have we got coming up, gang? Have we got anything coming up in 2026? And Frosty, you've got a little surprise to keep me and Thomas on the edge of our seat. So Shannon, I'm going to start with you. Rearview mirror. What a year.
Yeah, first of all, it's just great to be behind the mic here with you guys again, not hidden behind my laptop. It's been such a big year, and I love these episodes doing the rear view mirror, not just to be nostalgic, but to really look at with honesty, because that's when you see those real inflection points. So yeah, I love seeing what worked, what didn't work, what we can improve for our listeners. We did a big rebrand this year. That was a huge thing for us. You may have noticed as a listener, some new music. We've been changing the way we're telling the stories of our guests. So that was a huge moment for me looking back in the rearview mirror.
Can I say thank you? You drove a lot of that. We worked with a wonderful crew behind the scenes to help us start. Were you nervous about making those changes, or did you just know that it was going to work?
No, I was like bursting at the seams. I knew we needed to change, but I didn't know how. And that's
my traditional long-form bios where we spent 2 minutes telling everyone about the person and then spent another hour talking about the person. What do you mean? Get with the program, they were saying, old guy.
No, it was... So a shout out to Dead Set Studios. That's who we worked with. It was just incredible. We just needed that big push. I don't think it hurts to say you need help when you need it. And it just shows in our numbers and our reach. It's been we just needed that breath of fresh air, you know.
I listen back to some of our older episodes now and go, oh.
Yeah, and we're going back and refreshing some of them. So if you want to go back through our old catalogue, don't worry, they're completely refreshed.
We recently did that for a program we launched with a consulting firm. We went back and looked at our big dogs, executive clients. We're doing the popular science of one. So yeah, we're sweeping back, not every episode, but the ones that we use in programs, the ones we use in coaching. And that's been a gift. So for me, one of the compounded learnings is a podcast is a gift that keeps giving. You record a podcast in real time. We're doing a lot with making sure we don't timestamp. Oh, I just ate orange juice and it's the 23rd of, and then someone listens to that next year. Hey, it's old. But we're trying to record more content now that is long form content. That's been a big learning for me. Record now, play years later down the track.
It's easy to look at the good things of the year. What was some of the hardest moments for you, or a tough interview moment?
Getting asked this question on the spot, not having an answer for you. I love it. It's hard, isn't it? You're going to push and say, what was challenging? Some of the interviews we do with some of our UK guests, the time zone that we're in here at 9 and 10 o'clock at night. Am I a morning person, a day person, or an evening person? You guys are just laughing. I'm the Energizer Bunny. I'm up at 5:30 a.m. ready to go. In here some nights, starting at 9 or 10. I think, Wiz, we had one. We finished around 11:30 or 12, and then we were still chatting, and Thomas started turning the lights off as if to say, come on, wrap this up.
I remember that one. It was Professor Adam Nichols. I remember that one, yeah, because you just kept yakking after the podcast.
Shout out Adam, he's a good man. And we were just nerding out, weren't we, on imagery and mental performance. And yeah, Wizard wrapped me up.
I wanted to go home.
So that's been a positive challenge of having a global guest list now It's not just in our time zone. So I've had to pull a few levers that we teach pilots we work with, air staff, military, defence, global traders, pulling those levers on how to stay up at night, but also how to go home and then not be buzzing looking at the roof. So good challenge to have.
Yeah. When I reflected on the challenge, mine was also production related, not guest related or anything. When I think back, we've been batching more of our interviews now. You guys will record maybe 2 or 3 back to back, and you did one in the Gold Coast, and we lost our studio like an hour or 2 before, or the day before we needed it. And you called me like, we need somewhere to record in a very specific area. And I was calling every hotel. Conference rooms were booked or they were $1,000, and that was just a bit of a fun challenge for me.
Well, as it turned out, that ended up being the best room. That was with Ali Day. And Ali walked in there and he went, "Oh, this is awesome. You guys set this room up." It had beach scene, it had surfboards. It was an iconic Gold Coast setting.
Yeah, so funny that both of the challenges are always production related. Our guests are pretty well behaved.
Whiz challenges for you?
Oh, the main one I can think of from the year would definitely be the 5 Types of Mental Skills program episode with Aaron Walsh. I think we re-recorded that 3 times all up, I want to say. So that's about 4 podcasts worth of recording in one episode.
Mate, I am sorry. What beer are you drinking? What spirit are you drinking?
All of them after that one.
Okay. I am. We got our Christmas party next week. I'm going to give you something a little. I'll put the bottle on the lid next time.
At a conservative estimate, I think the final edit of that podcast was version between 13 and 17.
Now, here's what happened, ladies and gents. There's a real learning in this through me to you. Walsh and I had an idea to record a podcast on the 5 different types of mental skills programs, from no program to deficit model to light touch, we call bronze, to mid-touch, silver, and fully integrated model, which we call gold. Really good concept, really good construct. We recorded it, Frosty, and at the end I said, "Mate, I don't think that was our best work." He said, "Yeah, I agree." So there goes episode number 1. We recorded a couple of months later. I had been working with the Wallabies and was really working around that integration of bronze and silver. And then when we recorded, I still had some models in my mind. Walshy was still working in rugby union with the Chiefs, and he was starting to work in cricket. And then he said, "Oh, mate, I've thought about that. I think we can improve the middle of the model." I said, "Let me talk to Wizard." And I talked to Wizard. And then, I lost track after that. But look, in the end, we should have waited. I should have waited on that. That was my enthusiasm. So can both of you please, next year, you've got full permission. If I come up with some harebrained concept and I haven't finished it yet, no, you're not allowed to record it.
At the end, the podcast turned out great. It was just a bit of a slog getting there.
So now our audience is listening going, "Oh, I've listened to that podcast. It sounded really good." Yeah, it was almost a new version, wasn't it, by the time we did it?
Well, let's see if it paid off and if it's in the top 5. Should we get into the most exciting part of the episode?
Yeah, after you.
We'll do a drum roll.
The top 5 performance intelligence podcast for 2025 in order of number 5 to 1. Shannon, are?
Number 5 is High Performance Reset, why stress is freaking awesome as long as you add strategic recovery. Live keynote with Andrew May.
That guy's annoying. Has he rated it again? Tomorrow's energy starts tonight. I'll say that again. Tomorrow's energy. And if I go back, the first slide I put up on this on energy is over 25 years, my fundamental discovery is energy is our key commodity. Yeah, number 5, that surprised me in a good way, because when we first decided to amplify a live keynote, I think Angela said, "Oh, will people listen to that? And will it sound okay through your ears when people aren't in the room?" There's always 1 or 2 things we take out, isn't there, when we amplify a podcast, because there's some of the group interaction work. But we're seeing now when we play those live presentations, they are getting lots of downloads.
Yeah, I think I was with Ange in that one, being like, "Really, do we want to do this?" But every time we do it, they perform really well. I think your message always hits, and we do add a lot of them on YouTube as well if you want to watch them. So this doesn't surprise me at all.
It's also been a good way. We've got a lot of bookings from that. And it wasn't the goal to say, "Hey, listen to me speak." But from that, people have listened to that. I've lost track. I reckon we've had 8, 9, 10 bookings this year from the podcast alone, from people saying, "Hey, can you bring this message to our audience?" So for anyone listening, now might be a good time, Thomas. I do keynotes. We love doing keynotes. So I like seeing that there's this now link between podcast and keynote. Shannon, number 4, shut me up.
World's #1 surf life-saving athlete, the visualization and mindset training behind victory, Ali Day. Love that Ali talks about visualization and hypnosis in this episode. I think he's just bringing it. It's pretty common, but hearing it from the #1 Ironman, bringing hypnosis into the mainstream as a mental skill, this episode doesn't surprise me that it was in the top 5.
First initial thing was like, there's nothing wrong with you. What do I need to see a psychologist for? And I was quickly amazed and pretty shocked from like the first 5 or 10 minutes. We did a lot of visualization. We did a lot of meditation. I remember I was racing down at Maroubra, and the next day I woke up and the race played out like just exactly the same.
He's just such an interesting guy. We met him, that was the episode that you mentioned with the cancellation of the booking of the studio and everything. He showed up. I just assumed Andrew had met him and had known him for years, because he's just like, how's it going? They were chatting, and then we get into the podcast and he's talking about all the things that he does, and I'm like, I can't believe he's just such a chill bloke, but he must be an absolute ruthless competitor, like when he's in the race, and the foresight that he had as well to talk to a sports psychologist years before anyone else, and he was talking about, that wasn't the culture. People, were looking at him weird. And it just blew me away.
Yeah, and I had just met him, and you said after, how long have you known Ali? He's just he's a connectable type of guy. Deep message though. Don't take his affable nature as he's casual about competition. He, as you said, he's ruthless, he's targeted, he's sharp, laser beam. He's absolutely on a mission. Yeah, it was a real joy having that conversation. And that was recorded fairly late in the year, so that shot up the charts quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, and he ended up winning the Coolangatta Gold 2 or 3 weeks later after recording
the 11th time.
Yeah.
Hey, and a bonus out of that was meeting Lisa Martin, his sports psychologist, who we've actually pre-recorded an interview with, and we're going to be playing that in the new year. Really interesting how Lisa trains people for success, not just athletes, but doctors and medical students. That was a real gift, meeting Lisa and then getting her on the podcast. That was an absolute bonus.
Let's move on to #3, the fascinating new science of gut microbiome and how it controls your energy levels and brain, with Dr. Tom. He's always in the top 5, so of course he's made the 3rd space.
He wasn't last year, and I told him, he went, fuck me. He said, next year I'm going to have 2 in the top 5.
Fecal transplant studies absolutely fascinate me. So we're talking about transplantation of feces. It's not such a foreign idea when you think about blood transplant. It is interesting if you ever get the opportunity to see how it's done. It's very interesting. It's a big blender. It's blended. It's literally injected taken from one person, blended, all the cruddy bits taken out, and then it's injected into somebody's intestine. There are risks, and there have been adverse effects, which is why this is not mainstream.
Tom, you're #3, back in the top 5, buddy. Even last year, I think with Dr. Tom, there were 2 or 3 in the top 10. What's interesting when we look this year at 6 and even #8 is also science with Dr. Tom. Our audience loves science. Our audience loves Dr. Tom. We love Dr. Tom.
Yeah, this episode, of course, is #3 because we talked about the fecal transplants. I don't know if you guys remember that. When I heard that, I called Thomas and I was like, listen, you got to find me a video of what this, because Dr. Tom was describing it. I'm like, I want a video of what poop in a blender. I saw that video.
Thomas showed it to me. I said, mate, that's a pile of shit. He said, literally is. I said, what's going on? I was always the guy a little bit loose, pushing it. And I thought, you two are now pushing me to the edges. All right, if you think we can serve up on social media a pile of shit, go for it. And
a pile of shit in a blender, to be specific. Yeah, no, it was a great episode. The science ones are not my favorite, but they're always up there, and I always learn something incredible from them.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Shannon. And that's why we have a diverse bucket of category topics. There's 5. Test me out here, guys. There's science, there's leadership, there's mindset, there is sport, and there is coaching. So we look at interviews from those 5 different areas. Not every interview is for every person, but I'm okay with that. That's what we want to have with this program, is diversity and bring a range of topics to people to help them with their performance intelligence.
So speaking of leadership, that of course is the subject of our second spot. It is, so every year we replay the top episodes of the year over the holiday period. So one of the replays that we did at the start of this year is in the number 2 spot, and it's Matt Common's physical and psychological training that underpins being CEO of Australia's biggest bank.
What are the things that are most important? By far the most important is sleep. That doesn't come really easily to me. I'm not, some people are just really good sleepers. I'm not.
This whole notion that you need 8 hours, everyone was walking around thinking I'm sleep deprived, I'm stressed out by it. And you look at them and go, are you tired? No, get the sleep you need.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, all the air has completely gone out of that sort of adage about, some people can get by on a lot less sleep, or, I'll work hard and I'll sleep when I'm dead, and all, that sort of thing. So I probably sleep a lot more than I did when I was much younger, but I don't sleep enough. And so that's by far the most.
Matt, thank you. It took a while to get that interview with Matt. I've loved working with Matt behind the scenes for a number of years. I've had so much feedback from that podcast. That podcast has actually got us quite a lot of work, coaching with Pointy and other CEOs, even a few programs, because Matt articulated beautifully what he's done and what we've done behind the scenes. Look, and I'm one of many coaches he's had, so in no way am I proclaiming all the success Matt has had, but we've gone deep on leadership capacity. And that's the second most listened to podcast, even though we recorded that one about 18 months ago. So it's the highlights one has been played. It's still getting lots and lots of downloads.
Yeah, it's no surprise. He runs the biggest bank in the country. People want to hear from him. CBA have such a loyal community of employees. So that one is just always every day bumping up the numbers.
This is for sure the podcast for us that has the most legs. We've published it twice now. Each time it's been the most or one of the most listened to podcasts in our entire arsenal, and it just keeps going and going and going.
And the most listened to podcast in 2025 is The Art of Coaching, Leading and Building a Winning Team with Siebes, Anthony Seibold, head coach at Manly Warringah Seagulls.
The idea is if you try and chase 5 rabbits, you get none, right? So just imagine letting 5 rabbits out in the backyard and you try and collect all 5, you're not. But if you're really deliberate and you go after 1 rabbit or 2 rabbits, you're probably going to get them. Okay, so it's the same with teaching. And so, what we were talking about on this particular occasion this week was it's really good to check for understanding what are the 2 key points that the players are taking away from this particular mental skills meeting that you're running. And so then if there's 40 different takeaways, then you've probably had too much messaging, or your meeting was too long. But if there's pretty much like for 70% of the group, if they're sort of somewhere in and around the same 2 takeaways, then you've landed your meeting.
That was a really enjoyable podcast. That was really interesting to dig deep. I learned a lot about Siebes during that podcast, even though I'd been working with him for 2.5 years at that time of recording. And I'm not surprised that has been popular. Didn't maybe think it was going to go to number 1.
Yeah, why do you think it went to number 1?
People love sport. People love NRL. It was an open discussion. I've had a lot of people say, wow, I saw a really different side of a head coach, the humane side, the work that Siebes does behind the scenes. It's the iceberg effect. You see the tip. There's so much work goes into the communication, the messaging, the narrative, the adult learning. Like, you two know this. My presentations have changed from what I've learnt with Siebes, who openly talks about when he was with the English rugby union team with Eddie Jones, they got in Doug Lamont, one of the world's leading educators and trainers. So the turn and talks, the small pods and groups, the osmosis effect from working with Siebes has had a real impact on the way I teach and coach. I think collectively all those little tips and tricks people took away, it's about what goes behind building a team in sport. But there are a lot of real strategies that people can put into their day-to-day roles now.
Yeah, I do think it's also very unique because you're both working with Manly Sea Eagles. Don't know how many people in those positions have podcasts. So to have 2 people in the team together talking, it wasn't all necessarily about NRL, but I think that was just very unique positioning because Anthony does some interviews on other podcasts, but this one particularly just did very, very well.
That's top 5 with our ears, which is traditional podcast listening. Now more and more people are consuming podcasts by YouTube. Now our YouTube channel, we only started putting podcast on YouTube, or every podcast on YouTube this year. So that's one of the big learnings, or one of the big wins for us this year, is getting the system and process right to not only get the audio up, but then that afternoon to also have YouTube up. Big big tip of the hat to you, and also to Eowyn, who's putting together a lot of the great work behind the scenes now so we can publish the podcast in YouTube format.
Yep, I highly recommend checking out the YouTube. I personally prefer watching interviews. So our number 5 spot on YouTube is The Art of Finding Joy After Unthinkable Loss with BC.
When I saw the social worker, I knew it was bad. I knew I wouldn't be able to bring home my kid. I knew like more than 50% that she's gone.
I can't imagine as a father.
Yeah. So it was, because I knew I broke down, because the memory of that realization, I couldn't remember how I walked from that point to where Ariel was. And the next memory I had is seeing her with the tubes. And telling in my native language, telling my siblings to make me sleep because the pain was too much.
To be honest, I never thought we would do an episode like that. When the story was pitched to us, I didn't think it fit in to those brackets we spoke of in the podcast, but it has done so well. And I just think a story like BC's has to be told.
Yeah, and go back and listen to that podcast. It is episode number 158. BC, we love you. You are an inspiration. You are one of the strongest, bravest people I've ever met.
The number 4 spot on YouTube was with Owen Eastwood, the performance coach trusted by NATO, ballet and rugby teams.
When I was 12, I wrote that letter to Ngaitahu, the Maori tribe, and I just asked them, this is my dad, Harry Eastwood, this is my grandmother, Rose Eastwood, and that's all I know, really. My grandmother says, I'm in your tribe, but do you know who I am? And they wrote this amazing letter, which actually transformed my life in many ways, which was, we know who you are and you belong here, and gave me this whakapapa, this of 1,000 years of my ancestors. They taught me what that concept was, the idea that each of us, whether it's your family or any community you belong to, a team, a business, any group of people, that you're only one person in a line of people with their arms interlocked, going all the way back to whatever the origin story is, and into the future, to the end of time. And the metaphor being the sun first shone on that first ancestors and just slowly moves down this line of people and reveals each of us in turn.
We just started uploading on YouTube, so I've been pulling out episodes that resonated with our audio listeners. So Owen Eastwood, older episode, but an oldie, but always a goodie. We get a lot of New Zealanders on the podcast, so it's amazing to have...
Ora, everybody in New Zealand.
It's always good to have another New Zealander.
I was shocked when this one showed up. We published this, originally the audio, a couple of years ago, and it did pretty well. And then putting it on YouTube, it's just blown up more than I ever thought it would. So I think there's something magical about New Zealanders in the mental skills space. People just love it.
There is something very special about Kiwis and mental skills. If you look at who we've had on the podcast, other than Owen, we've had Aaron Walsh a few times. We've had Gilbert Anoka. We've had John Quinn. We've had Mike Chrono. There's a real hot spot of talent that has come out of New Zealand, and Quinny and also Walsh you talk about in their respective podcasts, and you can go back and listen or watch those and find out why are so many good mental skills and rugby coaches coming from this one part of the world.
Let's move on to the number 3 spot. No surprises again. It's Matt Common. People love to hear you, Matt, talk. Now they want to see you talk and they want to watch you as well. Number 3. I'll move on to the 2nd spot. We only released this a few weeks ago. Harry Moffat. Think you could survive the SAS. Here's what it takes to be an elite soldier.
This was a full direct action into a live fire situation against a pretty advanced enemy. We hit the ground receiving fire and returning fire. And out of this maelstrom, this kind of chaos, a young 12 or 14-year-old boy with a severe critical head injury stumbled into us and an old man who'd been shot through the arm as well. In most cases, you'll just check the individuals that they're not armed and move through and continue on with the mission. But on that day, I don't know whether it's an epiphany, but in my mind, I just felt like I've had enough. I really have had enough of this.
Yeah, I thought you might have been talking about a different episode when you said this was number 2, because like you said, we only released this a couple of weeks ago, but something in that has really just resonated with a lot of people. And I don't know if it's just also been picked up by the algorithm on YouTube, but it's done great. And I think it was a really good episode. And the main thing that I think of when we talk about it is that longevity that he had in that role. Like he said, he retired from active duty in the SAS in his 40s when most people would be out in their early 30s, which blows like
mid 40s too.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to do when you're in that sort of role.
That was such a refreshing episode from my end as an interviewer, because Harry just dropped his guard. So you've got this guy who's trained to survive in the most arid environments in the world, and like they're machines. Although he said, no, we're not. We're humans and we do all this different training. But he dropped his guard and there was a lot of vulnerability in there. He spoke about the moment he put someone else's safety first and wanted to get out of that environment. And you could really hear his voice, couldn't you, Wiz? Go back to being in the studio at that time. You could hear a crackle in his voice. So open, so candid. And it just reinforces that message that vulnerability is the new strong. Vulnerability doesn't mean you're weak. Vulnerability means, hey, I've got the strength, I've got the fortitude to sit here in my emotions, good and bad. I can tell you about the highs, and there's some great stories he had about playing cricket and some of the moments that he remembers. But gosh, if anyone watches a movie like one of the Bourne Identity or Bourne Supremacy or any of those action hero movies and think, hey, that's an easy job, listen to that podcast. Harry says, yeah, Hollywood glamorizes it. Those men and women who do that, they are unbelievable. Physically, psychologically, emotionally, socially, spiritually, every alley possible.
Yeah, I agree. It really gave an insight into the reality of what it is to be an elite soldier like that. He even mentions how they had to keep a goat alive. That was like part of the medical training.
And they have to operate like a medic on the goat.
Like keep the goat alive. So it's a real dose of reality, that episode. And then the number one spot is the one and
hot
only
hot potato.
Greg Page, the yellow wiggle.
I was 48 when I literally dropped dead. And I thought that would never be me, because I was quite an active person. I would always walk. I'd do 7.5 Ks a day. I'd play competition cricket, competition tennis, go to the gym, and I could do all of those things without having any of the symptoms that people tell you to look out for if you're at risk of having a heart event. Come to the show, and it was just a normal day like any other day, and at the end of the show, I was out of breath. It was a hot night, and it was hard work like a Wiggles performance is. No pain, no nothing, no warning signs, just literally walked over to the side of the stage to pick up my drink and have a sip of it, and bang, down I went. And that was my cardiac arrest.
That one is doing phenomenal. I mean, it's the Wiggles. They have a massive...
Have you seen how many mums have commented on that
Yeah,
one?
they have a loyal fan base of all
Greg,
ages.
Paige, we are way overdue for a catch-up. I'll send you a text message prompting you to listen to this. There are so many mums who love the original Wiggles, the OG Wiggles. So like literally there's women on there. Go to our YouTube, go to Performance Intelligence Podcast YouTube and have a look. He has got a ridiculous fan club of women who had young kids when they were performing who still love him. It was great seeing those comments.
Yeah, and again, it's a great one to watch on YouTube because he looks down the camera and serenades you, the listener. So highly recommend watching that episode. Let's move on to a few special mentions because it's always hard to distill, a whole year, 40 episodes into 1 year. I wanted to go through Thomas, what did you think our most underrated episode was this year?
Underrated? I think for me it'd be episode 164 with Dr. Bill. Listens-wise, it hadn't done as well as I thought it would because he's just a fascinating person. Not even he works with all these celebrities, but even before that, he was a bouncer while he was studying to be a doctor in Newcastle. I don't know if anyone else has done that really. And then, he goes on to this whole career of just looking after all these insanely famous people when they come to Australia and tour.
The stories he told us, just like one story after the other. Bono, when they were at the Mardi Gras and Kylie Minogue's up on a flagpole, he talks about the Rolling Stones, he talks about AC/DC, he talks about Dave Grohl. Just a ridiculous amount of people he's had an influence on. But one of the messages I love that Dr. Bill said is, doesn't matter how famous they are, everyone's normal.
Another special mention, Andrew, what is the most unexpected guest insight you learned being the host?
This is fresh, and this is probably no surprise for you too. It's around mental skills. And I can still remember just going, massive drop. Dan Abrahams, And I was saying to Dan that the model in mental skills that a lot of people use is based on research, which came out of mindfulness with John Kabat-Zinn, that the maximum benefit from mental skills training or mindfulness is 25 minutes a day. Minimum effective dose is 6. I get most of my athletes and a lot of my corporate athletes to do 10 minutes a day, 6 days a week. That's an hour. So when I ran that by Dan, he said, yeah, it's good to do that. But the biggest benefit, he said, is in the session. So doing mental skills training in the field session, mental skills training in the hill reps or the sand hills, mental skills training in the gym, mental skills training in the physio room, and insert. I can just remember going, totally shifted what I'm doing now with my different sporting teams about bringing in that framework that Dan talks about mental skills is everything you do. So that was a big shift for me. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. It was a gift.
Yeah, I think I heard the glass shatter within you during that episode when we were recording. I want to call out the fan favorite bite size. So the number one bite size that I could see in our back end, well, one of the top ones was Rainey Otter, the CEO of Fraser's Property Industrial. How do you lead when you're told you have cancer? And he shares this moment when he was blindsided with his cancer diagnosis, right in the middle of, the height of his career, and the mindset and leadership skills he used to face that head on, and how he navigated the uncertainty. And I just think, of course, that just doesn't really surprise me. That would be a top bite size, because I think everyone is touched by cancer in some way, whether it's yourself or a family member, and life still has to go on. So this episode was just gold for everyone. It's a very shareable one as well.
I love doing this reflection because I didn't see your specific notes. You had an overall draft. Rainey, gosh, that story he talks about, he had to have so much resilience and dig so deep. And he just now talks about it like it's part of his story, his processed.
And he was initially scared to share it. I remember him saying, and his leader said, tell everybody.
Yeah. And Rainey, we've had so much feedback on that. The other take I took from that, Rainey, was talking about the notion of altitude thinking. So you've got, it varies between some of the models, 30 to 50,000 feet, but you're up, that's about 10,000 metres up in the sky. And then you've got that 50 feet, so you're just cruising above the ground. So that's your aperture, your view. There's really big picture view. There's forward focus, but I'm pretty well close to the present and on the ground. I really like that framework for where you're thinking and where your energy goes.
And then the final special mention I wanted to ask you, Andrew, was you always say, or you'll share texts with us. You get a lot of texts from your friends that listen to the show. What episodes sparked the most messages?
The bloody All Blacks. Gilbert Anoka. Thank you, Deb Claxton. Deb contacted me and said Gilbert Anoka is talking about his book at Florence Guild, beautiful building in the city. And she said, can you interview Gilbert? And I said, I'd love to, because Gilbert and I had been talking about getting him on the podcast. I said, can I ask a request though? Can I interview him? And we record that as a podcast. When we published that, I had a lot of messages, not just from people in rugby union. Gilbert's got a big following in corporate world, especially those people who look at high performance. I would have had 10, 15, maybe 20 or more messages from that episode.
As a producer, I always help you with the research and prep for these episodes, and I loved Gilbert's book. Sometimes I just flick through them for the guests just to get the gist, but that one was incredible. I still have it. I don't know if I'm going to give it back to you.
You can have that. I've got a couple. I just want to say thank you as well so I don't lose the moment. The research you're giving me, it's gone to another level.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do love the podcast, so it is quite easy. But if it's a guest or a topic, I go into it a bit skeptical. And I'm South African, so of course I love rugby union. But I was a bit, I got to read this book on sport. But Gilbert's book was, it was not related to, it was related to sport, but you could apply it to anywhere in your life.
I like that diversity that we have, because you often don't know who the guest is. You know some, but then I will often invite someone I know in, and so I have a skew or I have a cognitive bias. Hey, this lady I've worked with, or she's awesome, you should do this. And you go into it with a beginner's mind and you pull out stuff. I'm like, 1, where did you find that? 2, that's really different. And then when you're having that discussion, you can see someone's eyes look at you, whether we're in the room live, whether we're doing a recording like we did with Gilbert as part of an event, or even if it's over the internet, you can actually see them look and go, like a bit of a smile or an even sometimes shock. Where did you get that from? So Shannon, thank you. Thank you for the wonderful job you're doing on creating some different conversations and going into some areas, some rabbit holes I didn't even know existed.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, because you normally call me and you're excited and you're like, we've got to have this person on and don't know what it's going to be about. I know this is what I want to do. And then I'm like, okay, how are we going to distill this so it's not a 3-hour conversation for Thomas to edit?
Yeah, thank you for that as well. That's a big help.
Next part, I want to surprise both of you. I've created a little game. It's called Guess the Guest. And I've pulled some hopefully recognizable quotes from different guests over just the past 40 episodes. We do 40 episodes, 40 interviews a year, 40 amazing guests. So I'm going to read a quote. And you two, and if you're listening, play along as well. I'm sure you're an avid listener and you'll be able to pick up these people. And let's test your knowledge. You can compete against each other. Don't cheat, Thomas.
I feel nervous.
So there's 5 of them, and we'll see how this goes. If you don't
Is he looking at your screen?
Don't look.
It's all dark. I can't see anything.
Okay, I'll try to hide the name. And if this goes miserably wrong, we'll edit it out. Okay, I'm going to try to say it the kind of way they say it. Okay. If you're going to be intentional, be intentional. If you're going to do it, do it. I always say to the boys, if you're going to put your boots on and walk across the right line at training, then there's no place for mediocrity, or else I'd rather you not come.
Michael Gervais?
No.
Is it Siebes?
No. But like similar, it's a coach.
Mike Cron.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah,
That didn't sound like Mike Cron.
He's a nice guy and he sounds a bit tough, but yeah, that was a striking.
Gee, that's your tough voice.
Yeah.
Sounds just like your sweet, loving voice.
Okay, next one is, it's not recovery. It might be something else that really distracts you from the real
Professor
world.
Shona Halson.
Yes, but I would say it's one of the poorest forms. I'd rather someone watch TV than video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was all about recovery.
I took personal offense at that, but we'll move on.
Woohoo, 2-0.
Okay, number 3.
Not competitive, are we?
My life has been covering chaos, and when you're in the slipstream of chaos, you become more
Andrew
adaptable.
Clark.
Yes, because you're dealing with 100 different micro adaptations every single day.
I didn't realize we were jumping in. I thought we were waiting until the quote was finished and then we were saying the
It's
name.
a competition.
But
It's a competition.
Okay, 2 more. If you're in a bar and someone's getting a little wild, maybe had one too many, they're starting to talk a little too loud, grab
Gilbert
him.
Anoka.
Get him out of there. Get him home. You're
Michael
always
Gervais.
wearing our shirt. Always
Field.
protect the team.
That's Michael Gervais.
That's Michael Gervais. It's like one of our biggest exciting guests. Okay, last one. This is a bit of a curveball. This is meant to challenge you. I got to the top of that summit and I didn't feel particularly different. I thought I'd feel, you're going to be more of a somebody, and I didn't. And that's when I began my nobody training.
I can picture it. I just can't remember
So a
his
guest who
name.
got what he wanted, top of the summit, and felt nothing.
Josh Peterman.
Yes.
Hey, Wiz, well done.
Were you almost there?
I knew the podcast. I just couldn't remember his name for a second there.
Were you almost there with that one?
No.
Oh, yeah. Josh Peterman, who's a leading theatre actor.
Yeah.
Well done. You guys did pretty well. I was a bit nervous how you'd manage that. That was really just a bit of fun, just really to shout out more of our guests. A massive thank you to everyone who gave their time and their story and their wisdom this year. Let's wrap this episode and look into 2026 in the new year. So 2026, we're going to keep bringing you, the listener, new guests in the performance world. I love to tease some of the episodes, but not too much. We've already recorded a whole bunch, of behavioral scientist, couple rugby union players, president of a massive Australian media company. We're going to touch on the science of Ozempic.
We're actually going to do our first roundtable. We've got Dr. Tom Buckley, Maddie Lansdowne, leading nutritionist, and we're going to do it Diary of a CEO style. Set up the interview, 2 potentially opposing views. Not everything is as it first seemed on Ozempic, and that's what I want to pull out of this interview.
Yeah, so if you got any New Year's resolutions around your health and your weight, that's going to be a great episode. And we've also got a sports psychologist. You already mentioned Lisa, who's the sports psych for Ali Day. So it's going to be a great year.
I'm looking forward to it. And the fact that we've already got so many recorded, ready to go, makes our schedule look so full. And I'm pretty excited about some of the ones we've got.
I'm proud of our operating rhythm now. And I mentioned this a number of times over the last few years, but we do 40 episodes a year. We do it to school term. So we go for 10 weeks. We have 2 weeks of holidays, 10 weeks by 2. We do that 4 times. Having episodes front-loaded and having them ready when we go into that holiday or that drop-down break, I know for you two makes a huge difference. We're getting a better quality of interview, gives you more time to do some of the editing and the intros, and allows us now time for YouTube. It's great that we've got that. That's our new standard, and that's something that I had to drive because we were a little bit last minute when we first got going. What's our quickest turnaround ever, Wiz? So we publish always on a Thursday morning on the traditional podcast format.
I think off the top of my head, we did one. I can't remember which one. It was a few years ago. We recorded one Wednesday that finished in early afternoon, and we got it out on Thursday morning at 5 a.m.
That's a bit tight. It's nice to have a little bit more of a runway, isn't it?
It's lovely. It brings my heart rate down and my blood pressure and everything. It's fantastic.
Andrew, lastly, what do you want to get out of 2026? What's your dream or your vision?
World peace and tougher sentencing for parole violators. Do you know where that comes from?
No.
Sandra Bullock, Miss Congeniality.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about your arm.
Had to give you a quiz also. I am looking forward to continuing the standard that we've set. I think you can always say, hey, I want further, cities out his 40th, faster, higher, stronger. I'm really proud what we've created. Like we are the podcast team, and other parts of the business contribute, but like the three of us, our mitts are all over this. I'm bloody proud of you guys. You like my little podcast kidlets. I want us to keep the same level and let's push it a little bit more. Like what can we keep doing? What can we challenge? What can we do to keep growing? Big thing I want to find a sponsor, partner to help us amplify. I want to get this out to more people. And to do that, we need to put some money towards budgeting. So we do run this on the smell of an oily rag. The podcast helps other parts of our business. As I mentioned, we get keynote inquiries. We've had a number of programs come from this. That's a benefit of the podcast. I never, ever thought that this would be, it's actually over 20% of our revenue now with Performance Intelligence. The original leads come from the podcast. So thank you, listeners, for supporting our bigger business. But yeah, I would like to get some sponsorship to this so we can really bring this to a much bigger audience.
Yeah, so if you're interested in sponsoring us and getting more ears on Performance Intelligence, I'll add my email in the show notes so you can reach out.
What have I created with you? I'm so proud. Remember when we first started, you felt so uncomfortable. So Shannon, full story, used to be my EA, and when we used to do sales meetings and I asked you, because if I'm always asking the questions, it can look a bit pushy. Remember when I first got you to do some sales questions, you went, it just doesn't feel authentic. What have I created?
No, I'm just passionate about the podcast, and we wouldn't be able to do it without sponsors or the listeners. So I just want to give a big shout out to our listeners for another phenomenal year. I feel more energized than ever with the podcast. It's really gaining traction.
3 years. I really, really, really feel we are just getting started.
Yeah. And we created an Instagram account just dedicated to the podcast. It's really just me in there every day, and I log in and I share it with the team how many elite athletes are following us, and they message us and we're messaging them back. And so if you're not an elite athlete and you're listening, you are in good company. So yeah, it's just been a great year. Really excited for 2026. What about you, Thomas? What do you want to get out of for 2026?
I think keep growing the podcast audio, but also, pushing that YouTube to the next level. We're seeing some crazy high views on the YouTube, and we've only just started. So I think if we can keep pushing that to the next level, I think that could go, further than the audio.
Yeah, I want to add a quick shout out to Michael Bevan, because there's one video on our YouTube page that is going crazy viral. I think it's made its way to India, so all the cricket lovers are going crazy. So definitely check out our YouTube channel and leave your comments. And of course, we wouldn't be anywhere without our listeners. I always love to end our rearview mirror on thanking the listeners for supporting us. We're going to be playing our bite-sized episodes in our top 5 over the holiday period, and then we'll be back in your ears on the 29th of January.
Shannon, thank you for putting this run sheet together. Thank you for all the work you do behind the scenes. I'm going to get you in an interview or 2 next year as well. Haven't told you about that yet. Got to keep you on your toes. Wiz, thank you. Thank you for not just being the wizard on audio, but the wizard on eyes. I've said this during the episode, really proud of us as a team. Let's keep that rolling forward. And to the listener, thank you. Thank you for supporting the program. We love doing the podcast. We're going to continue doing the podcast. Have a good break. Everyone, have a good break. That's why we play the top 5 episodes. We need a good break. You all need to down-regulate physically and psychologically. And then, boom, come back 2026 ready to go. Get out of here.